We the people, all the people, have the right to shape our democracy. Our right to vote is sacred. We have struggled for decades to preserve it and help make our nation safer. But still, our work continues.
We need change now!
This right is under attack again.
Mail-in ballots for November's election could be impacted.
With new obstacles and barriers from those seeking to divide us and stop us from marching, protesting, and voting. We need leaders who represent all of us to create the change we need.
Let's change the lawmakers.
Follow the call of history.
Not next month, not next year, but now.
And help keep us safe. We must fight. We must vote. That means you. Together, we will make a difference.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our presentations. I hope you're enjoying the summit, the first day of the summit so far. We are excited for this next session, which is going to be presented by not only myself, but my partner in Envy Ledge training life, and that is Melody Judilla with Silver State Voices. Say hi to everyone, Melody.
Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Well, welcome, Melody. And this is going to be an exciting dive into not only Nelis 101, which if you're wondering what is Nelis, is it the Air Force Base that we're talking about? No, that's the system that we use to monitor the legislature, and which will be the thing that you will be using every day during the session if you're like me and wondering what's going on, what's happening today. And we're going to show you not only how to use that, but how to get involved during session and just an overall legislative 101. So I'm going to share my screen so that you can see what we're going to be talking about and you can follow along. So here we go. We have a few things that we're going to go over, but first off, Melody, tell us who the legislature is for those that have no idea.
Yeah, of course. So if you are brand new to Nevada or Nevada legislature, or maybe you've done legislative work in another state or something like that. So Nevada's 3 branches of government, just like the federal government, is executive, so that's the governor, judiciary, which means our courts, and then legislature. And legislature being like our elected legislators that we ask to make laws and pass budgets and things like that. So in Nevada, we have a bicameral legislature, which means we have 2 chambers. That's the Senate and that's the Assembly. If you live in a different state or work in a different state, it may be called a different name. It might be called delegates. If you live in Nebraska, you would just have 1 house. Then Nevada, we just have the Senate and Assembly. And then next slide.
Awesome. And so what is the session? Just super quick. And we can also, by the way, send you this as a handout so that you can have this as a resource. So the legislative session convenes here in Nevada every 2 years, or basically every odd year, for 120 days. And then this is what the timeline looks like for this year. Melody, you want to take that?
Yep, and so lucky us, our session this year actually starts this coming Monday. And so, excuse me, in Nevada, it starts the first Monday of the year, and so of the February, which means February 1st, and it goes on for 120 days, which makes it about June 1st. And so that last day is called sine die, which means without day or time, which basically means that's the last day of session. So you'll often hear it just in conversations and articles and things like that.
Yep. So very important before we dive into how to engage and how to use Nelis. Life of a bill, like Schoolhouse Rock all over again from when we were kids. So this is the summary of the life of a bill. It is very long or it can be very short. The way it starts is with a bill draft request, and that's step number one. That means that someone, whether it's a legislator or sometimes even the governor or an agency, has basically requested a placeholder for this bill that has to do with an issue. And then it gets drafted by the awesome people at the Legislative Counsel Bureau. Those are the lawyers for the legislature, basically. And they turn it into actual statutory language. And once that's done, it gets introduced in the House of Origin. So they all either start in the Senate or in the House. And the House of Origin means which is the house that it's literally born from. And that is also known as the first house. It goes through various committees. Sometimes it only needs one committee to go through. Sometimes it takes more than one committee to hear a bill. So once it goes through committees, it gets voted out and gets voted out of its House of Origins. It'll go to number 3, which is the second house. And that means it just switches over to the other chamber. So if it's the Senate, it goes now into the Assembly, or in other states, it's called the House. But here it's the Assembly. The Assembly does the same process all over again with hearing the bill, hearing it in committee, making any amendments to it, voting it out of committee, and then putting it back to a full floor vote. And that's what step number 4 is if there are any amendments from the second house, the two houses resolve those amendments and introduce an updated version of the bill. Let's say our friendly bill over here in the GIF makes it through all the way through step number 4, gets voted out of both houses, then it goes to the governor. And the governor then has to decide whether to sign it or to veto it.
Yep, and then throughout this entire process, then Maria Teresa just outlined, there are several ways you can watch it. And so the first one being in person at the Capitol building in Carson, but there's a little asterisk if you look into it. That means it's currently closed to the public because of COVID-19. So in place of that, there's 2 options we all have to watch, either the floor sessions or a committee session. And the second one is through Nelis, which Maria Teresa will talk about in just a little bit. But here I can talk about the YouTube channel. So most recently, last summer, the NV Ledge got a glow up, and they now have a YouTube channel. The content's really the same. It just depends on your preference, whether you want to watch something on Nelis or on YouTube. Nelis, it has like the handout next to it, or the agenda items as well. But I find it's easier to watch videos on YouTube because you can scrub back and forth. And like if you want to review a certain thing, make sure you heard something correctly, you can do that more easier on YouTube.
Yeah, and one thing I will say about YouTube is that you can now subscribe. So if you click this here, you can subscribe. And once you subscribe, you'll have a little bell here. And when you do that, whenever the account publishes a video or goes live, you will get a notification. And if you have it on your phone, you get a notification. So you'll be able to hop into hearings as soon as they get put live. So that's an awesome tool that we have, an additional tool that we have to tune in today because of the pandemic. All right, so we talked about how to tune in. How do you actually engage? You know, usually here we talk about how you can go up to Carson City or go to Grant Sawyer and do stuff in person. But as folks probably saw on Twitter, online, or through various conversations that you've talked about, because of the pandemic, it is limited the ways that folks can, in the public at least, can access the building. So we cannot access the building if you are not staff or a legislator yourself or a member of the press pool that is allowed in. But observe over YouTube. You can definitely call in like we did during special session, and you can still share your opinion on the webpage and engage that way. So how can you keep up with everything? And this is my favorite part, the bulk of this whole thing. Nelis, for legislative sessions. So Nelis isn't for the Air Force Base. It is the acronym for Nevada Electronic Legislative Information System. And you can see here, that is what it looks like. But we're going to click right into it so that you can see what Nelis actually looks like when you open it. So this is what Nelis will look like on your end when you log on. So I'm going to go through the various sections that you have. It is a website. I highly urge everyone. You can see this is the web page address. Bookmark it as soon as you log on to it. I have a bookmark in my NV Ledge folder here. And whenever you log on, this is what you will see here. The schedule for the day. Today is January 30th, so obviously they have nothing going on. But we can see here that this Monday, we have a floor session at 11 a.m. in the Assembly and a floor session in the Senate at 11 a.m. as well. So here you will be able to see all the floor sessions, and that is the entire Senate or the entire Assembly's session. If you're looking for committee hearings and meetings, you will be able to see that here on the left side, just where you see my mouse kind of creating a square. So you'll see here, similar to this, the date and time on the left, the name of the meeting, so it'll say Assembly Ways and Means, and what time, and a link to be able to watch. So that is one way that you can operate in Nelis. There's also the fun part of Nelis, that is the legislation, where you can actually see everything. If you want to see where we are with BDR, which is Bill Draft Request, as we learned, and that is right here when you click legislation and BDR list, here you are able to see all of the BDRs, all of the requests that have been put in up to date. So you'll see they are divided up in different numerical sections. And so you can see here that when a draft request does get put into legislative language, so that means it got drafted into a bill, you will see the bill number here. So if I wanted to check this out, what is this bill? I click on it and it takes you right to the bill page. And the fun thing about Nelis and the awesome thing is that if you create an account right here and sign in, you'll be able to click this button and create and track the bill. And so how do you do that? How do you sign in or register to track this bill? So you go in, and if you need to register, you do not have an account, you click to register. You put in your information here, your first name, last name, email address you want to use for this, your username and your password. Remember your username and your password. I've forgotten it before, and LCB had to help me figure it out. So remember that, create your security questions, pass the robot test, and then you will get an email confirmation to the email you put here saying you have a Nelis account, click here to log on. And then once you do that, you'll be able to, if you're on this page, click sign in. And when you register for a Nelis account, it is free for 10 bills. So for free, you're able to track 10 bills. If you want to track more, you can pay for more, but everyone is able to create an account. You don't need to have a specific email address. You don't need to work for everyone. For anyone or for any organization, you as a person in Nevada with internet access, you can track a bill. And so all I have to do now is click track. And now I'm tracking the bill. And I'll be tracking the bill. So when I log on, I will be able to see that in my schedule for the day if there's anything related to this bill. And I will also get email alerts about anything that has to do with AB 27 now. And so one of the awesome things here in Nelis is that you have a user's manual. So if you go to the tracking section and you need to see something or you have a question about Nelis, you can actually go to the user manual, and it has pages and pages worth of how to use it. And you have a table of contents so you can see how can you edit your subscription, because sometimes you don't you realize that that bill isn't something that you should be tracking because it doesn't affect the issues that you care about, or maybe you hit your limit and you'd rather track another 9 bills or 10 bills, so you can delete subscriptions. You can create tags. So for example, you can create a healthcare tag and tag all of the bills around healthcare, and it will give you summaries for that tag. So it is a very helpful manual, and I would bookmark this as well once you find it. But again, the way you get to that manual is you can click tracking, and then right here, user manual, and then print it, save it. This is your user guide for legislative tracking. And again, if folks have any questions, we have a few minutes left. Please put them in the Q&A box. And so this is...
Sorry, I've got a couple questions for you before we move on. Do you want me to just read them for you?
Go for it.
Our friend Steve Horner asks, if we have an account, do we need to re-register for each session, or can we just update the bill tracking?
Very good question. You read my mind, Steve Horner. So luckily, you don't need to re-register. And the awesome thing is, if for some reason you did forget your password, you can, there is in the login screen a forgot password, and the folks at LCB will reset your password. But it literally archives the whole history that it has. So here you'll be able to see all of the different sessions that have passed before. So anything you've done in previous sessions stays with your account. So you don't need to create other accounts. So I can go into past sessions where I've used this account and see all of the different bills I've tracked, all of the different things I've done with my account. So they've done a good job about having everything follow you for the rest of your life or the life of that account.
All right, our next question is from Leanne McAllister. She asks, I'm curious to know which sessions are the most well attended. It would be helpful to know which are not to be missed. And the reason I came on camera is I got a couple opinions about this, and then I'm going to ask you and Melody your opinions. I would say for this session, interim finance, or not interim, it won't be the interim anymore, finance and assembly ways and means. So finance is what the money committee in the Senate is called, and ways and means is what the money committee in the assembly is called. Same committees, they work together, but the assembly and Senate have slightly different names for their committees, but they do a lot of the same stuff. Those are the committees you should not miss, because the money committees are going to be so important this session. You should follow along. For things that we care about, judiciary, so like the death penalty, things like criminal justice reform, that'll usually go through the Judiciary Committee. A lot of our voting rights bills will go through legislative operations and elections. So obviously education is important this session. So it's hard to pick just one committee, but if you're really trying to follow along with one committee, I would start with the 2 money committees, which is Ways and Means and Finance. Maria, Melody?
Ditto. That was going to be my answer exactly.
And you also have the ability to like jump between watching different committees now that everything's online virtually. If you say you get bored in one committee or you want to really like attend another one, all you do is leave the YouTube channel and go to a different page.
Yeah, and so for Ways and Means, let's say, which is, you know, one of the money committees that Annette mentioned, you can click the page here under committees for Ways and Means and block these days off and times off. You see the whole schedule for them. Basically, they meet every day at 8 a.m. So you can block that off.
Cool. All right. Last question we're going to be able to get to in this section. Aisha says, how do you research certain Nevada revised statutes? For example, why are there caps on municipal broadband? I want to know how that came to be. And so I think that's a good thing. How do we go into the NRS and actually search the history on those things, Maria?
Yeah, so that is a very good question. So for that, so if folks didn't see what I just did here, so I'm here in Nelis, and let's say I have that question, I got to go into NRS and see what statute is where, or just want to go into the law library. I went to here, Nevada Legislature, so top drop down menu at the left. I click home, and so that takes me to the official homepage of the legislature. And this is, frankly, this is where I go every day because It has everything you need to know. So you go to Law Library right here, and literally this is where you can see everything. You can see city charters, court rules. So if you need to look at court rulings, and what we're looking for, statutes of Nevada. That will take you to the NRS, what we all know as the NRS. And you can see it by different ways. You can see all of the different statutes by bill number from different sessions, or you can simply stick to this here, the top left has the actual updated statutes. So you can go to the table of contents, and there you go. It is a very long, obviously, law book, but that's where your table of contents is for the law, literally for Nevada. And you just click on the chapter you want to go to, and there you are. Those are your statutes.
Yeah, and one thing I love about the Nevada Legislative website is everything is there archived historically. So you can go back from prior sessions and look at different bills, things like that. Don't be afraid to navigate this website, even if you're just looking for who's my legislator and what's my district, because that's going to be important as we go through this session to get to know your legislators. You can figure out even just the simple stuff, and you will not break this website. The Nelis and the Nevada Legislative website are very handy tools, and especially in a virtual way, this is going to be a virtual session. This is going to be really important for us to use these tools as we move forward. And if you have more questions, Maria will be in the main room, and she is happy to answer questions on Nelis one-on-one. Maria, you want to give your email in case people have questions about any of this stuff?
Yeah, totally. My email, lots of folks here have it, but for those that don't or need it bumped, it's Maria Teresa, MariaTeresa at battlebornprogress.org. Feel free to send me your Nelis or NB Ledge questions, and I will show you the way.
All right. Well, thank you, Melody. Thank you, Maria Teresa, for doing such a fabulous job. If you have questions about Nelis, remember, there is a guide on Nelis to give you all of the how-tos of how to use it. And Maria is happy to answer your questions one-on-one in the Remo main room. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with our next presentation right after this. Thanks for joining us, everyone.